Hello and welcome into this week's edition of the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series preview show, right here on Racing News Now. As always, I'm your host, Garth Allen. Thank you once again for joining me tonight. If this is your first time catching a Racing News Now video, welcome. This is a channel where we discuss lots of motorsports, namely NASCAR, ARCA, IndyCar, and Formula One. Those are the series that we cover at the moment. We do plan to broaden that scope eventually, but at the moment, that's what we cover. So on tonight's Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series preview show, we are looking ahead to Sunday night's 59th annual Coca-Cola 600 from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. And as we do on every preview show, we're going to look at practice times. We're going to look at the starting lineup. We're going to make a prediction for you for the race. And that won't be what we give you tonight. So we'll look first at final practice. There was another practice before that, but it was pre-qualifying, so that was used as a qualifying practice. Those times really don't really do much looking at the race, so we're just not even going to really pay attention to first practice. Instead, we're going to look at final practice, of which Erik Jones topped the board with a lap of 28.87, 187.045 mile an hour. And Jones actually ran the third highest number of laps in this practice session. The only cars that ran more laps than Erik Jones were Joey Logano at 55 and Austin Dillon at 51. Erik Jones ran 50 laps in this practice session. So Erik Jones got a lot of track time in this practice session. Laid that lap down fairly early, though. It was his 18th lap on track that he put that lap down. Kyle Larson, as we can see, is second fastest on the board at a 28.92, so about a half a tenth slower than Erik Jones here with a 186.664. Ryan Blaney also up there, as well as Joey Logano and Denny Hamlin. Paul Menard sitting in 8th. Seems to have some speed this weekend. He might be one to watch out for. Kasey Kahne. I gotta say, I'm a little surprised to see Kasey Kahne in the top 10. Kudos to Kasey Kahne for putting up that lap, 29.16. Only ran 26 laps. So that 95 car might have some speed on Sunday night in the Coke 600, so you might watch out for that one. Looking down below the top 10 here at some notables, where your favorite driver could have fallen on this list. 3 Hendrick cars all right here just outside the top 10. Jimmy Johnson in 11th, Chase Elliott 12th, William Byron 13th, Eric Almirola slotted in 16th. Not a lot of speed shown out of Kevin Harvick. He sits in 17th at a 29.22, as well as Kyle Busch in 18th at a 29.23. Bubba Wallace fell in 19th. Brad Keselowski didn't show a lot of speed either. 22nd for the 2-car, 29.29. Alex Bowman fell in 24th. Now, the other thing to look at when looking at race practice is to look at the 10-lap averages. Who is fastest over 10 consecutive laps? Because that will give you a good idea as to who is fastest over a long run, which especially in a 600-mile race like the Coke 600, that's especially important this week. Because generally, we do get a lot of long runs in these races. It may not be as important near the end if we get, say, overtime or something, but this does give you an idea as to who will be the fastest cars in the race. And not surprisingly, your top 2 from single lap speeds were also the top 2 on this list. Erik Jones and Kyle Larson slotting in first and second on this list. Erik Jones averaging 184.579 miles per hour over 10 laps. And Kyle Larson 184.524 right there with him. So really, it seems to me like Erik Jones and Kyle Larson are really your 2 fastest cars in this field. I think they are really the 2 to watch here. Denny Hamlin sits third on the 10-lap average with 183.147, more than a full mile per hour slower than the 20 and the 42 over 10-lap averages. So that is definitely of note that it seems like Erik Jones and Kyle Larson are really kind of in a class of their own in this field. Chase Elliott was 4th on this list, and Joey Logano 5th. Kevin Harvick was a little bit higher on this list. If you're a Kevin Harvick fan, he sits in 7th. 182.810 miles per hour was his average over 10 laps. Ryan Blaney, though, 3rd on the single lap sheets, 10th on the 10-lap averages, 182.594. He lost 4 miles per hour over 10 laps, whereas the rest of these guys only lost about 3 miles per hour. So not really a good thing for Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney seems to have more short-run speed this weekend than he does long-run speed. Kyle Busch, not a lot of speed on this list either. He slotted in 15th. Brad Keselowski was 11th, so he really jumps up on the long-run speeds. And Jimmy Johnson only 19th on this list. Alex Bowman 21st. Casey Kane, we talked about him being 9th on the single lap speeds, 23rd on 10-lap averages. So it doesn't look like a lot of long-run speed for Casey Kane, nor for Paul Menard. We talked about him being an 8th on the single lap averages, 24th for Paul Menard on the 10-lap averages. So that's your practice speeds. Now let's look at the starting lineup for the 59th annual Coca-Cola 600. Kyle Busch, Joey Logano on the front row. Kyle Busch with a 28-14, 191.836 miles per hour. Denny Hamlin, Erik Jones, Brad Keselowski, the rest of your top 5. Ryan Newman, Jamie McMurray, Ryan Blaney, Eric Almirola, and Daniel Suarez, the rest of the top 10. Notables down lower in the field. We talked about how much speed Kyle Larson has. He qualified in the 11th position. Paul Menard sits there in 14th. Martin Truex is in 15th. Matt Kenseth, we didn't talk about him on the practice speeds because he was way down the sheets. Qualified in 17th. William Byron 21st. Chase Elliott 22nd. Jimmy Johnson 23rd. It's funny how it seems that the 24, the 9, and the 48 are all right on top of each other no matter which of these lists you're looking at. Bubba Wallace qualified in 24th. Casey Kane's in 26th. Alex Bowman 27th. Clint Boyer with a very poor qualifying run in 28th. Parker Kligerman in the 96 car this week, the Gaunt Brothers Racing Toyota. He qualified in 32nd. Kevin Harvick did not make a lap. He qualifies in the 39th position off of owner points. So that is your starting lineup for the 59th annual Coca-Cola 600. Now let's pick a winner for this race, the longest race of the NASCAR season. And like I said, I'm really looking at Erik Jones and Kyle Larson as the 2 best cars in the field. Now, that being said, Erik Jones does not have a win in the Cup Series. So, whereas Kyle Larson does. So in that respect, I think you give the nod to Kyle Larson. But Larson does not have a great record on 1.5-mile tracks thus far in his career. Has yet to win on a 1.5-mile track. 2-mile tracks he has been very good at. California and Michigan, he has been the man at those tracks. 1.5-mile tracks, not so much. So, do you really give the nod to Kyle Larson here? I really think it's going to come down to these two. But the question is, can Kyle Larson get over that hump and win on a 1.5-mile? Or does Erik Jones break through and get his first win, reminiscent of Jeff Gordon back in 1994 getting his first win in his second season in the Coca-Cola 600? Could have some flashbacks Sunday night to a young Jeff Gordon. It is entirely possible, and I think we will. I think Erik Jones wins the Coca-Cola 600, picks up his first career victory in that 20 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. So, that is our prediction for a winner for the Coca-Cola 600, Erik Jones in the number 20 Circle K Toyota. So that'll do it tonight for us on the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series preview show. Be sure to check with us on probably Probably be Monday by the time we get highlights, so it'll probably be Monday before we can get a rewind show up for you for this race. So be looking there probably around midday on Monday or so for a Coca-Cola 600 rewind show. If you haven't done it already, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss a thing from Racing News Now. Hit that big thumbs up button if you like the video. It is much appreciated when you do. And don't forget to support us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/racingnewsnow. It's not required by any means. Don't think it is. We just appreciate it when you do help us out on there, because that just helps us continue to grow and give you better quality content into the future. So with that, this has been the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series preview show. I'm Garth Allen for Racing News Now.